Welcome to our webinar on Mantis, Chameleon, and Bookshare. Let's look at we skipped our agenda slide. Here we go. All right, so we'll have our introduction, our presentation. We will talk about several things. We'll start with developing literacy skills, then go to accessing books with Mantis and Chameleon. After that, we'll do search for and adding titles with Bookshare. This is for, of course, 1.5 CEUs, and please note that we do have closed captioning as well today. Please put your questions in the chat. We do have 3 presenters. Our first is Cecilia Robinson, a Texas School for the Blind Outreach Consultant is her title. Next, Joe Hodge from APH, Software Quality Assurance Specialist. And finally, Emily Nostro from Benetech, Collection Development Specialist. She is also a certified teacher of the visually impaired and a certified orientation and mobility specialist. Objectives. What are we going to accomplish here today? So first, we're going to learn to identify at least 3 ways students with visual impairments develop literacy skills. We will compare and contrast 4 ways to access electronic books on the Mantis Q40 and the Chameleon 20. We'll identify 4 commands used to navigate a book on the Mantis and the Chameleon. Then we'll talk about 4 benefits of refreshable Braille and using touch cursors when reading electronic books. We'll list at least 3 strategies for searching and locating books on Bookshare, and we'll explain the process of requesting a new title for the Bookshare collection. Quite a bit here. So with all of that, it is time to turn this over to Cecilia.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to talk and try to share my screen at the same time, so please bear with me. All right, as mentioned, you are attending this webinar to learn about creating a bookworm, which I think is a cute title. So anyway, we will go ahead and talk about what we have for you to take a look at. So one of the things that one of the questions actually, oh, I forgot to tell you what I do. I'm from Texas School for the Blind and Visually Impaired with the Outreach Program. And my job is take care of technology needs for the state. And then previously, some of you may know that I worked in Houston at Region 4 Education Service Center for a number of years. So in both capacities at Region 4 and also now at TSBVI Outreach, I hear from many people calling us to ask about technology, and usually is about technology, how to use it and all. One of the questions that I really ask first before talking about technology is, why are we talking about technology? Let me go back to one slide. By the way, if you're following along, you should have gotten a handout. Maybe you will get it later, but your handout will have all the slides information, but yours is in a Word format. So one of the questions that people always ask is, how do I do this? How do I do that? Something for us to think about as professionals is, why are we bothering with assistive technology? Actually, I am just confusing myself. Hang on one sec, let me adjust. Let me go back to the previous slide, which talks about the tasks. So before I go into technology, I also try to gain a little bit more understanding on why people are asking about the technology. I always ask, what is the child needing to do? Usually there are a list of things that our students or our children are needing to do in school. The main objective is to use technology for access to classroom materials, to online materials, including instructional materials, which is more like online textbooks and things like that. Nowadays, I'm not sure how many students are actually using hard copy textbooks anymore, but the online curriculum materials has kind of grown a lot in the last couple of years. And then there are supplemental reading materials. There are worksheets that are probably created by the publisher of the textbooks, but there are also teacher-created materials. So we're talking about a variety of materials that a child has to access. And then they have to take notes in class, they have to produce work, and they also have to participate in some type of cloud computing. So why do we bother with technology? The easiest answer is that everything in school is about literacy. It doesn't matter what your role is, everybody on the child's team is responsible for literacy. That means in addition to the TVI, O&M, classroom teacher, and the related services staff, there are also family members and other people who take care of the child. So everybody is responsible in some way in this big area called literacy. And we all know that technology supports access to the general education curriculum. And for us, it's also the expanded core curriculum. In Texas, the ECC or expanded core curriculum is written into law. So we are all responsible for that. So be sure you check in your state's guidelines and standards what the ECC is like and what you are needing to do as well. I did not put down one reason for why bother, and you might want to write it down if you want to. It's because it's in the law. IDEA 2004 also has assistive technology written into it. So if you want to write that down as well. So the next question that comes to mind is, how do we start helping students to get technology, to gain literacy skills so that later on they will be able to use technology? The easiest way for me to think about it is a foundation. On the slide, you see a picture of somebody building a foundation for a house. Think about it as helping your student to build a foundation of skills and knowledge. You want a solid foundation. Without a solid foundation, anything that you put on top of it is not going to sustain or stay there for too long. So with that said, just remember that our job is to build that foundation, and we need a lot of people to help us build that foundation. Then let's take a quick look at some of the basic skills. I listed a few on there, and those are the basic ones. Motor skills. We talk about gross motor. How is the child moving around? Do they understand in relationship to the space around them where their body is? Then there are fine motor skills that we want our students to learn. Use of their hands, making sure that they are okay with using both hands to touch objects, to learn about everything that that are in their immediate environment. And then the last one is awfully important, is tactile skills. When we're talking about using their basic literate skills later on to help them learn about assistive technology, tactile skills is awfully important in identifying Braille, tactile graphics, all those things, and then keyboarding, writing Braille, reading Braille, and so on. Listening skills, hearing and listening skills. Can they listen for details? Do they know how to forget about the sounds that are not really purposeful for them for right now, and just focusing on honing on to the information that they need to listen for? The ability to focus and to concentrate. This is awfully important for our students, that they are going to be sitting in the class for a prolonged period of time. And usually, back in the pre-COVID days, when students were sitting in class, I usually tell the team that you might want to think about having the child be able to focus and concentrate for about 45 minutes to 50 minutes. And people always ask me, how, why do you say that? Well, if you think about it, each class period is about that length. So anyway, depending on the student's class schedule, you might want to think about the length of requiring them to focus, and how do you teach them to do that. There are plenty of other skills that I did not list on there, but these are some of the basic ones. And also, please know that the motor skills and the listening, they can all expand a lot into the sub areas as well. And then there are concepts. As you know, the professionals in our field all use hands-on teaching and practices to help our students understand what is the size, what are shapes, the concept of time, same and different, all those different things. And they need hands-on experience to do it a lot and to practice in different environments, like at home. What are they doing? There are house chores, there are tasks that they do at home that are quite different from what they do in schools. And by the way, we also see behaviors of the students that they show at home, and then in school, they may or may not show some of those behaviors, and vice versa. And then in the community, do they have a chance to go out into the community and learn what's going on around them, do everyday tasks in the community with their families? And then all these experiences and the hands-on and learning about what's going on will help them form a foundation for literacy, which is reading, writing, recognizing signs, being able to read tactile graphics. All those experiences help them to form a foundation for literacy. There are other considerations as well. For our students, do they have the opportunities to be exposed to reading in various formats? There are hard copy, Braille, and tactile graphics. For us, it's easy to just teach Braille and forget about tactile graphics. However, the important thing for us to remember is also to educate your team, is that the younger the students, the lower the grades, sometimes the more graphical the materials are. If you look at kindergarten and first graders worksheets, there are lots of graphics. So how do you start teaching them to identify tactile graphics? Hard copy Braille has a lot of value in helping us to build the understanding of what a Braille page is all about, from the top left, top right to the bottom line and the bottom right of the page. There are Braille numbers, there are print page numbers, there are margins, what is a title, and then what are headings. Headings has levels. They all have levels, like heading 1, heading level 2. How will they recognize it, read it on hard copy Braille? A paragraph. How do you distinguish between a paragraph? And then as simple as the end of a line versus the end of a sentence. These are all important because later on, when they use assistive technology, at the end of a line on a Braille display is different than at the end of a sentence. And how will the child learn that? Hard copy Braille gives you a lot of opportunities for them to learn that concept. And then when you introduce electronic Braille, there is a lot of tactile reading as well as listening at the same time. How will they be able to make a reference to what they're doing on the electronic file back to what they know in hard copy Braille? Audiobooks, any audio materials require them to use a lot of their hearing and listening skills, and then digital information as well. I included plenty of opportunities to practice writing, because writing is important in laying the foundation for being able to understand what is going on later when they use a computer or when they use any other mobile devices. In writing, I always ask that teachers consider working with families, especially when the students are younger or when the students are new to Braille, to create purposeful writing opportunities, both in school and home for writing. For example, at home, can they participate in writing a list of groceries for the family? A lot of our sighted students may be creating lists, or the parents, family members may be creating a list and they put it on the refrigerator. How about for our students who are using Braille? Is their Braille copy of the grocery list also on the refrigerator? And then are the household items being labeled so that the child will know what is going on in the home environment as well? Also, one thing to think about is this: since the pandemic, a lot of our students are staying at home. And at home, I also ask teachers to work with the family to see if they can create some purposeful writing time, set aside some time to jot a few things down so that the child who uses a Brailler or note taker has a chance to write down, say, as simple as, what did I do today? Or if the family is creating a writing activity like, hey, let's get together and talk about what everybody did today and have a family diary. Later on, you can review it and make it into an experience story. And so that everybody has a part in the diary and is purposeful for the family. There are many things that families are being very creative in creating for right now, but practice writing Braille and in a purposeful way is something for us to consider as well. Also, one thing about writing is that, as you know, if our students are using a Brailler, then later on, when you have to explain the concept of going forward and backwards in the document will make more sense. I always use the embosser head of the Brailler to explain to the child what a cursor is. As you know, a cursor is pretty darn abstract. They can't see it. So what does it mean when you tell them to move forward or move backwards? And do they know where they are in the document? So something for all of us to think about. But writing has a lot of implications in building literacy skills. Then students, are they showing an interest in technology? In building literacy, nowadays, every child, sighted or not sighted, they have access to technology, but do our students show an interest in it? Do they use a phone, a tablet, calculator, and other activities that they do at home, like Do they help the family to make snacks by turning on the oven, using the microwave oven, and then a timer? Do they have a tactile timer? All these things are not high-tech items, but they are technology, and is exposing the child to using some of these in their everyday activities. Do they use apps for traveling? In the last couple of years, many of our students in Texas prefer to use apps on their phones for traveling. And if they are using it, and if it is working for them, then go ahead and let them use it. And then right now, they can use it when they take a walk outside with their families, maybe at the end of the day, when it's not 1,000 degrees here in Texas. So can they use some of those same skills? And then of course, playing games is a big thing for our kids. And then many of our kids are also using technology for social networking. I put a question there, and I want us to think about it too, and always remember, am I meeting the student where he or she is at? As we know, technology can be a little bit painful, not only for us, but for our students as well. The main thing is, are we individualizing the experience, the lesson, so that what we are teaching, they can understand it and it's not too high for them to master. If they can't do it, that means we're not meeting them where they are. Then reevaluate your instruction and see if you can modify your lessons to help them get the little pieces to get from step 1 to step 2. So with that said, I was wondering if there are any questions before the next presenter?
We have not seen any questions. You are going good.
Okay, so I will stop sharing then.
All right, so we are ready for Joe to get started.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Joseph Hodge. I do quality assurance here at the American Printing House. So that means I test hardware and software, and I've been doing that for about 3 years. So I'm excited today to dive into getting books on the Mantis and Chameleon. So we're going to start off on the first slide here with Mantis. Is a QWERTY keyboard with Braille output. And so basically what that means is in the past, kids have had to have a Perkins style keyboard with your normal 6-dot or 8-dot entry with a Braille display. So the Mantis allows us to have the QWERTY style input and still get Braille output at the bottom. So when I was coming up through school, this is important because I learned to type with the normal QWERTY keyboard and never had Braille output on the bottom of it. So it makes it really nice. And going into the next slide, the Chameleon is a Perkins style 20-cell Braille display. It is portable and allows students to use in the classroom. And both of these devices are running the same software. I want to be upfront with that in the beginning here. So even though one has QWERTY input and one has Perkins, they're both going to operate in a similar way. So we are going to have PowerPoint slides for both, but I'm going to be demonstrating on the Chameleon just so you guys know here in a second. So going on and moving to the next slide, we have 4 ways to access books. So you can use an SD card and put books on that. You can use a USB thumb drive. On the side of each device is a USB-A port. You can just plug a thumb drive right in. There is download, which I'm going to actually demonstrate here in a second. And then there's also a terminal where you can hook it up to an iPhone or iPad and use something like Voice Dream Reader to read a book in Braille that way. So we're not going to dive into that one today. If you guys would like us to, please submit feedback and we can plan another webinar for that. So to answer your question, Susie, I just saw that question come in before I dive in. Yes, so the Mantis can be used as a QWERTY keyboard to teach typing, and it actually does work with Talking Typer, so that's exciting. Paul, if you want to go ahead and stop sharing, I'm going to jump into doing the quick demo on the PC here.
There you go.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. So I'm totally blind, so I'm going to be using JAWS, but what I'm going to do is demonstrate jumping on Bookshare and downloading a book, copying that over to a thumb drive, and we'll see that come on the Chameleon in a second. Sorry, my JAWS, I slowed it way down, and I'm waiting through here. Okay, there we go. Can you guys see my screen now? Just want to make sure. Leanne, can you?
Yes, we can see your
okay.
screen. And I locked the check for a minute so it doesn't overwhelm.
All right, so here we are on Bookshare. I actually have a book already pulled up called Boston Blackie by Jack Boyle. So one thing to note here, Bookshare, you can set how you want to download your book. So you can choose things such as DAISY, Microsoft Word, BRF. They have other formats that you can choose. So for this, you want to set it to DAISY, and we're going to get into that in a little bit, why you'd want to do that. So I have the DAISY format selected.
Download button.
And I'm going to click download.
Enter.
And I believe it already has downloaded to my
Alert,
machine.
download complete.
There we go. It says download complete. So now I'm going to jump over to my downloads folder.
Context menu, settings and more menu, new window,
Right
off, escape, leaving menus, pause Windows E.
There we go.
File Explorer. Downloads, downloads, enter.
Press enter.
Shell folder view, items view list box. To move to a
now,
Boston Blackie, Joseph Hodge, Daisy text.
So I actually had it downloaded beforehand, but it's also got both copies here. So I'm going to hit Control C to copy this, or you could copy with the mouse with the right click and go to copy there.
Copied.
So we're going to go over to my thumb drive.
Search box edit. This PC. Enter.
This PC.
This PC. Devices and Untitled D2 of 2. Enter.
And
Untitled D. Items view
this
list
is
box.
my thumb drive. It's just untitled. So I'm going to go ahead and paste this in.
Pasted. Items view multi-select list box. Not selected. Boston Black.
All right.
Alt
So
space menu bar. Close. Enter. Leaving menus.
it's as simple as that
Items
to
view
get it
multi-select.
on a USB thumb drive. Then what I would do is unplug the drive, take it over to the Chameleon, and we would plug it in.
Boston
I'm
Blackie.
going
Meeting
to
controls.
keep Boston Blackie
Meeting
by
controls.
Jack Boyle on your mind, because I'm going to reference it once we start looking at the library on the device. And I'll bring that up when we get there. I'm going to stop my screen share here for now.
Mute. Current. Stop share alt plus S space. You have stopped screen.
And Paul, you can jump back on the PowerPoint. I'm going to slide over to the Chameleon here.
And I have also opened that chat back up if you had questions.
All right, so I have the Chameleon in front of me. So the first thing we have to do I'm sorry, I'm repositioning my microphone here. A little bit of a two-camera setup here. All right, so the first thing you have to do to be able to get books on the Chameleon is join Wi-Fi. So what we're going to do is, and I got I got the Chameleon here. You're going to see the Braille changing and me using the device. I've actually got mine set up as a brand new device here, so I'm going to be doing all these things. And then Paul will be showing the PowerPoints here. So, all right, so what we're going to do is we're going to start in the main menu. So in the main menu, you actually start at editor. So to navigate these menus, you can hit the space bar. That'll move you forward. You could also hit .7 to go backwards, or you can use the thumb keys on the front. The other thing that you can do here is you can do first letter navigation. So for example, Wi-Fi is actually in settings. So I can press S for settings, and then I can press .8 for enter. Going forward, just so I don't keep saying .8 for enter, enter is .8. So we'll just go with that. So now that I'm in settings, first, again, we can use first letter navigation, or I can use the thumb keys or space bar to move to it. That's what I like about this device. You have lots of ways that you can interact. There's no wrong way. It's nice that you have all these choices. So I'm gonna hit W for Wi-Fi, and I'm gonna press enter, which is .8. And we are going to, it's gonna say Wi-Fi off. So you can now press .8 to turn Wi-Fi on. And what that's going to do is actually start up Wi-Fi. So now what I'm going to do is move down to new connection and press enter. And Paul, that's the next slide here. So what you're going to see on the screen is going to scan for SSID. What this means is this uses a 2.4 gigahertz network. So basically you can scan for anything in range of me. So right now I hit enter, it's going to say loading, and I'm going to find my network, which is right here. And then I can enter my password, and I'm just typing in Braille. I almost forgot it there. There we go. And I can actually recheck what I wrote just to make sure I got it right. And I can use the thumb key, the right thumb key, to go to OK. And I can either press enter or a cursor routing key. So anytime that there is an option to select it, you can either hit enter or a cursor routing key above the Braille. So that way you have kind of multiple ways to choose OK. You're going to hear it beep. Possibly, I might have beeps off actually. Yes, okay. So I have successfully connected, and we are now on my Wi-Fi, which enables me now to go to my online services and connect to either Bookshare or NFB, which are both on the device. So we're going to go ahead and go to online services, which is the next slide. The password can be in computer Braille. It depends on how you set it, and I'll get into that in 1 second. So we're going to have online services. So when I go in there, you can press O for online services and press .8. The first thing that's going to come up on the screen is going to say Bookshare. So I can press .8 again. And then it's going to be username. So I'm going to type in my username. And I actually have mine set to UEB grade 2. And got that in. So now what I'm going to do is hit the next thumb key, which is another slide, Paul. Okay, cool. So we're going to go to the password field here. I'm going to type in my Bookshare password. And you can hear it beep because I did not select password. So when there's a password, that you get 2 brackets and you hit a cursor routing key in the middle, and you now can type. So now I'm going to type in my password. Okay. And I'm going to hit the right thumb key and go to connect. And now we're ready to browse for books. So I am connected. This is great. All right. So what we have here in the Bookshare menu, I'm going to just read off some of the choices that we have. So we have most popular, most recent, browse by periodical, search for author, text, or book title. And then that's it actually. So what I could do here is I'm going to go back to most popular. So I'm going to go back around but with the left thumb key here. So I'm at most popular, I'm going to press enter. And then what comes up is Catcher in the Rye. So that's the first thing that shows here. So now what I can do with this is I can either hit the right thumb key to move to the next book, or I can press enter. Sorry, I have a guide dog that's moving around. I can press enter and view by author. Hang on 1 second, sorry. So now, when I'm in the book title here, I can view the details of the information of the book, or I can hit the right thumb key to go to download. So I'm going to go ahead and hit download. And then the book now is downloaded to my device. And I can go view this now in the library. So we're going to go back to that main menu. I'm going to hit the home key in the middle of these 4 thumb keys. It's a circle button. And I'm going to hit L for library. And now we have my book list. So here I see Boston Blackie, which I put in on my thumbstick here. And then I have Catcher in the Rye. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Catcher in the Rye. And we are going to go in here and show you some navigation keys. All right, sorry, the dog has decided to be boisterous at this time of the day. All right, so the navigation keys in the book, we have thumb keys. So we have a previous and next, are the outer thumb keys, and we have panning keys, which are the inner thumb keys. So basically what this means, and these are configurable in the settings. So the outside thumb keys for previous and next jump you by previous and next element. The inner thumb keys move
Can you
you.
explain to us about what those elements are, Joe, here in a minute?
Yes, yeah, that's a good question, Paul. So an element is something like, for example, chapters, or it could be headings in a book, or it could be bookmarks that you set. So there's on the next slide here, we're going to go into that a little bit deeper, but basically you're going to be moving from whatever item that you select. By default, when I go into this book, moving by thumb key, it's going to go line by line. So it's going to go carriage return to carriage return. That can be changed with the level. So the inner thumb keys move you 40 or 20 characters at a time, depending on which device you're using. So we're going to go ahead and go to the next slide here. So we're going to show you how to change levels. So now that I'm in a book here, I can actually press T with space, and that's going to bring me into a context menu. And at this point, I can see something that says level 1, level 2, which doesn't give you a lot of information. But what that is since we downloaded the DAISY format. So if you remember me talking about on Bookshare, you have options for BRF, which is a formatted Braille format, or you have DAISY format. DAISY allows you to jump by headings or to jump by contents. There's different things in each DAISY book, depending on how it's laid out for what you can move around. So for example, in this Boston Blackie book, if I go to level 2 and press enter, and now I hit the thumb key, I am actually moving the outside thumb key for next element. I am moving chapter by chapter. So this allows me to get to, let's say a teacher said, hey, you need to read at chapter 10. I can move to level 2. I can hit the next thumb key and move to chapter 10 very quickly. There also is, in the same menu, you can move by, I can set that, sorry, there we go. I can actually set this to search for something. So I can do like previous and next search, and that all within this element window here. So
you're showing us a DAISY file, but you also have BRFs you can get. Are there any changes or restrictions on the BRFs with elements?
So yeah, so a BRF is going to be more for like leisure reading. The DAISY format is actually going to let you kind of hone in on moving around by elements. So if you want actually to move around by chapter, you're going to be able to do that. So the problem with the Braille, the BRF format is the chapters aren't always marked. So you wouldn't be able to do that. That's kind of the difference there. I use BRF personally for if I'm going to read something leisurely. I use DAISY if I'm going to use something where I actually need a lot of navigation to get around. That's a good question, Paul. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the next slide, I believe, which is benefits of a Braille display. So the benefits of a Braille display, as you can see here on the Chameleon, I have, it's portable, or it's something that I can take with me anywhere I go. So the other thing is you have these, above the Braille, you have the cursor routing keys I kind of mentioned earlier. These allow for a student to do quick editing, get to a certain spot. So like if I'm reading a line of text, I could hit a cursor routing key above that particular letter and jump right there and make an edit. So this does have an onboard editor that you can use in conjunction with the book reader. One of the limitations is right now is you can't, unfortunately, copy like text from the book and paste in the editor. However, what you could do is I could hit the home key here, go to the editor, and then go to create. And now I can start typing a note. So I could say the first line of the book says to, okay. And then so I typed a little note in here. I can hit home, go back, hit L for library, press enter. And then I'm actually back in my Boston Blackie book right now. So that's really easy and makes it so nice to do things quickly. So if I see something in the book I want to take a note of, I can easily do that. So those are kind of the benefits of the Braille display. One thing just that I plan to talk about, and I'll slip it in here. Being able to have reading materials such as Bookshare and being able to take it anywhere you go is nice. I've had the luxury of having a smartphone for a lot of my adult life, but you know, the thing is you're connecting to a device and reading it off of something. I've really enjoyed just downloading a book from Bookshare and actually reading it right here on the host device with not being connected to anything. I don't get a text message that's going to interrupt me, so it's kind of nice just to sort of get lost in the book. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So we have what's called a context menu, and this is actually on both devices. So the context menu is where you can press on the Chameleon in with space anywhere that you are in the file, like basically anywhere you are in the operating system. So think of it as a right click on Windows, if you will. So what this does is it allows you to do things and get to commands that you may not have memorized, for example. So I'm in the editor right now. I just did it because I jumped back over the editor real fast. So in here, I can get to like the file menu. I can get to cut and copy, but I'm going to go ahead and go back to my library since we're talking about books, and I'm going to do it here. So what you can do here is you have a command to go to page. You have a page or a command to go to do find. So like F with space for find. So that allows you to have quick access if you forget those commands or you don't have the ability to look at a manual right then and there. So the context menu can be used anywhere throughout the system. So it's a very good command to know. And so here, Paul, on the next slide, we have a key list of Chameleon. So we have the key list for Chameleon keys here, if I could talk today. And this kind of shows you that, for example, we have the F with space for find. We have the GH for go to page. So we have some written down. These are going to be available for you later on because we're kind of going through this at a quick pace. You may not even have the device in front of you. So these will actually show you how to use these commands right here. They are also in the user guide for the device, which is on our APH website. But I thought this would be a really nice way for you guys to access this later when in the field. If you want to go to the next slide. So this is the same commands for the Chameleon. So I'm sorry, for the Mantis. So I have the Mantis on my lap that I've kind of written notes on. So I'm actually using two displays. So it's a little tricky. Because I'm trying to read the PowerPoint as well. So the Mantis has the same keys. It's just you have the QWERTY input. So instead of doing like what's traditionally the Braille input is like M chord, you do stuff with the QWERTY keyboard. So you might use Control Alt G, for example, or Control M to go to the context menu. So there are the same keys on both operating systems. It's just a different command to get the same job done. So this is very powerful in this book reader in the library here, because what a student can do is they can literally go anywhere they want in the book. They could have just a piece of text, go to find, go right to that text. They can navigate however they feel like using, and they actually are able to read as much as they want. There is 16 gigabytes on both these devices. So that's a lot of memory for books. That in a nutshell is the library and how easy it is. So, I mean, as you guys saw, I was able to copy the book over to the thumb drive. I was able to actually connect to Wi-Fi and get the book on the device within probably, a minute and a half. So it's a very powerful tool for kids to continue their literacy and become more and more productive with reading Braille.
All
Hey,
right,
Joe, this is
sounds good. We've got
Amy.
some questions here, I know. So I'm going to stop the screen share while you start with the questions.
Sure. So we have a couple of questions. This is Amy, Joe, and so they're going to kind of go back and forth between the Chameleon and the Mantis. But there was an initial question early on that can the Chameleon be connected to a monitor so that a sighted teacher might be able to see what the student is doing?
Unfortunately, we don't have that support at this time. It is a feature that we have heard about a lot since I've been at APH. So, but we don't have that capability at this point.
Okay. Great, thank you. So this question goes back to information when you were talking about the cursor and where the cursor is located. And so is the correction start on the cursor, before the cursor, or after?
Say that one more. Sorry. Say that one more
The
time.
person was wanting to know about where that cursor is located.
So I think maybe what they're referring to. Oh, okay. For the cursor routing, I think this is what they mean. So if I'm for example, let me pull up a book here. Let me get back to this. There we go. All right. So if I'm actually in the Boston Blackie book now. So if I hit the cursor routing key, so I have a sentence here that says by Jack Boyle. So if I hit the cursor routing key above the J, that's going to actually put the cursor right under the J. So if I were to type, for example, you actually really can't type in the library, but if I were to type in the editor, it would actually be putting anything before the J. So if I wrote, hi, my name is, and then it would actually say, hi, my name is Jack, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Then two different last questions. So can it be assumed then, are we hearing you say that both the Mantis and the Chameleon use BRF?
They do. They both support BRF. They both support DAISY as well. And
then the final question that I'm seeing in here is about what operating systems do these devices support?
So currently,
specifically, does it support Mac, iOS, that sort of thing?
Yep, we actually do support both. So the only caveat to supporting Mac at this point, we are only supporting it with USB. Bluetooth is hopefully coming in an update. There's just some issues there that we don't want users to have to deal with. So we're just suggesting that they use USB-C.
Great, thank you. We are caught up in all of the questions.
Okay, great. So I guess now it's time to turn it over to Emily.
All right. Hi, good morning. Let me go ahead and pull up my PowerPoint. Okay, so my name's Emily Nostro, and I am a comms and TVI. I work for Bookshare. I'm the collection development specialist, so I handle getting the books into the collection and purchasing a lot of the books from student requests. So I'll go ahead and explain that process. Hold on, let me move on to my next slide. So today we're going to learn how to use 3 different strategies to search for books on Bookshare. And then we're also going to learn how to request a new title on Bookshare. So if we do not have a book that you guys need for your students, I'll show you how to request it. So there are 3 different strategies that we can use to search for books. One is the very basic header search box, and that has the ability to search by title, author, or ISBN. The next one is using the advanced search feature. And then the last one is subscribing and adding students who are members to special collections. And so that's a really good way to get them onto more, onto lists like the New York Times bestsellers, which are constantly changing. And so the students will have access to the books as they're added on. But there's lots of great collections. We have over 500 public reading lists. All right, so in order to search for books, if you're using the website, there is a header search box up on the top of the page, and you can search by title, author, or ISBN. And so if you're logged in right now onto your account, you can go ahead and try using the header search box with this particular book or any book that you want to search for. The one that I like is Mercy Suarez Changes Gears. You'll notice that you do not need to put in the accent over the A, or you can search by the author, which is Meg Medina, or you can search by the ISBN, which is a 13-digit number, usually starts with 978, and that's the book identifying code. So I'm going to go ahead and look in the chat because I see that there's quite a few questions. So
don't worry, most of them we're answering.
All right, fantastic. Okay, so if you want to go ahead, let me stop my share and I'm going to actually show you what this looks like on Bookshare itself. So let me find my Bookshare tab. So if I wanted to search for this book, I'd go ahead and put Mercy Suarez Changes Gears. And so I can search by the title, or I can search by the author, or I can search by the ISBN. And so the book record comes up right here. And what you would do is there is a button that says assign, and you can assign it to your particular student. So if I wanted to give this to my 4th grade student, I could go ahead and select it, press the button assign, select my student. So I have fake student right there, and they'll have access to the book. I'll give it to my other 5th grade student as well. So sometimes it does not bring up a book using the author. Any idea why? And that's just due to some of our SEO search terms. So what I recommend is if you're having trouble finding a particular author, go ahead and do the advanced search. So right underneath the header search box, there is a button that says advanced search. And so I'm going to click into it. And so this gives you the ability to search by a lot more filters, with a lot more filters. So you've got title, you've got author, you have ISBN, publisher, you can search by synopsis. You can also select the quality or whether or not you want images or image descriptions. If you guys are working with English language learners, you can search for books in other languages as well. We have about 19,000 Spanish titles, but we have all of these languages. So you can also search by grade level or history. And so sometimes if you are having difficulty searching for a particular author in the advanced search field or in the basic box, it's much more helpful to search in the advanced search with the author field. And if it's a popular name, sometimes it'll be a little bit more tricky to find, but you can always refine your search. So, excuse me, stop my share and go back into my PowerPoint. And so just wanted to, oh, I'm so sorry, guys. So we have the ability to search by title, author, ISBN, publisher, synopsis, grade level, category, language, and rights. And so one of the things that I like searching by is synopsis or with full text. And full text is going to bring you up anything on that title detail page. And there's a lot of great search techniques that you guys can use to own in on your results, especially if your student's doing research. So if you guys use quotation marks around the words or of a particular phrase, it's going to bring up that exact phrase. If you use the minus character, it's going to help narrow results. So if you're searching for books on snails, but you don't want to get books on snail mail, you can use the minus character and weed out those results. And then you can also use the asterisk to broaden results. And so again, if you were searching for snail mail with the minus sign, you would just subtract the, you put minus sign mail and you'll only get stuff about snails. With swimming, if you put the asterisk after it, so if you put swim, you'll get results on swimmers and swimming as well as swim. And so you can, again, stop my share and go back into my Bookshare. So again, this is how it would work. Is if in my synopsis, I'm going to go ahead and put swim, my asterisk, and it's going to give me all of these different results. So another thing that I also recommend is searching by freely available books. And the reason why I recommend this is to help with your student self-advocacy skills. So if you go into the advanced search page and you go down into books to search, if you select freely available books, these are all the books that are available in the public domain and Creative Commons. So anyone has access to these books. So if your student wants to demo to their friends or family or peers or teacher how they read, this is a really great option because you don't need to be logged in order to search or download. So you select on freely available books and click on advanced search. And it's going to give you all of these different books. So if you wanted to demo, you could click read now, and that's going to open it up in a web reader. You can also download, I'm logged in as a sponsor, so it wants me to assign it to a student. But if you were not logged in as a sponsor, if you weren't logged in at all, you would see that you could download in whatever format that you wanted to. So that is another. Does anyone have any questions so far? You can drop them in the chat if you do. I'm going to go ahead and go back into my PowerPoint. And skip ahead. So there's over 10,000 books in the freely available book, over 10,000. I think we're up at 20,000 now. So there's plenty of options to choose from. Now, the other way to search for books or get your students a ton of books is by subscribing and adding your students, which we call members, to special collections. And so there's multiple ways to search the special collections. When you first log in, you're usually brought into your My Bookshare page. And let me go ahead, share my screen. So when you're first logged in, you're brought up into my Bookshare page. And so in my reading list over here, those are all the reading lists that you've created or you have subscribed to, which also include the special collections, excuse me. And in order to see the most popular ones, you would click on Browse, which is up at the top hand portion of the website. And this gives you some of the more popular special collections. And so we have it broken down by categories of kids, teens, teachers, adults, general resources, awards, disability resources, books in Spanish. And so if you wanted to see all of the collections, you can click search all collections right here. If you find one that's particularly interesting, let's say I really want the accelerated reader for my students. My student is reading, his ATOS level is like a 4.2. So I'm going to go ahead and just give him all of these books. What you would do in order to subscribe is click on this Wi-Fi, the tilted Wi-Fi symbol, or the button that says subscribe. And so you can subscribe your students and add, so it brings you to a different page, and then you add your students, add your members. And then you just give your kids the book. If you wanted to add other teachers onto it, up at the top, there is a title bar. It'll show you all the titles, all the members, all the sponsors. Sponsors, again, are teachers. And so I could add other teachers onto this. So I'm going to go ahead and add Tina onto this. All right. So that's how you go ahead and you search for special collections, or you add your students onto special collections. Now, you can also search by specific categories, and I'll show you how. So let me go back into my Bookshare. And so I've just added my students over here. I'm going to go back into Browse and search all collections. And so we also have these nice hashtags that are available. And so you can search by kids, or teens, adults, general, and so if you put the hashtag and then the category, it'll pull it all up. And so, yep, they're all right here. Now, you can also create your own reading list. So you can just, if you have your own list of books that you want to use with your students, you can just click on my reading list over here and you can create your own and assign it to your students. Now, your students cannot subscribe to reading lists unless they are an individual member as well as an organizational member. And so if you want to give your students more access to books, be able to search on their own, subscribe to reading lists, this is something that I really recommend for our middle school and high school students who are a little bit more independent, is talk with their parents about creating a individual membership as well. And so it's really easy to do. All you have to do with your student is just click the button, click your student and go down to more actions and add the individual membership, and it'll prompt you through that process.
Emily, this is Amy, and we have a question that goes well with what you're talking about. You've really shown us a lot of step-by-step demonstrations. So do you have any tutorials available that would be able for parents to access to become more familiar with Bookshare, especially since we're doing so much distance learning?
Yes. So on our website, we have a back to school Learn Anywhere landing page, and it provides resources for both teachers and parents, and different webinars that are catered to the different audiences. I also have a list of books, or not a list of books, a list of webinars that I can share with you. And then every Friday, either at 12 p.m. or 11 a.m. Pacific time, we hold office hours. So if you have a particular question or need some more help, you just have to attend one of those. So right now it's going on, or it just ended, but they'll have another one next Friday at 11 a.m. And you can go ahead and register in that and, ask your questions, or, find the links for the webinars that you think would interest you. And so again, membership for Bookshare is completely free. Your students with a visual impairment definitely qualify. To sign up, you just have to go to bookshare.org, and there are prompts to say, get started. Now there's one more thing that I did not, so I can go ahead and show you that, but I also, before we end, I want to show you how to request the book that you need for school. And so I'm going to go back into Bookshare. And so if you have a book that, that is not on Bookshare that you want to add, and this is really great to do if you have a student who, is wants to pick out their own recreational reading material, a student that's particularly interested in something, you click on this link in advanced search that says request to add the book. And if you can't find that, you can always go into the Help Center and search for it there. And so you click on the book request form, and then you would mark that, yes, it is required for school, even if it's for recreational reading, and then we'll have the funding to go ahead and process it. And then you can put in your title, ISBN, author, publisher, copyright year, and additional comments. And so we only require the title or ISBN, and then Maureen, who handles all of our book intake, will go ahead and send you an email. Sometimes she'll find the book in our collection, or she might have additional questions. And so you can go ahead and request the book right here. And then when in your My Bookshare page, you can check on your request on the sidebar. There's an area that says My Request. And so you can see all of your open requests or closed requests. So if you make one of these book requests, it's going to be right there. Now, I saw a lot of questions come through the chat, a lot of things going on in the chat, so I'm going to go into it. And so if a student is located in a state where NFB Newsline is available, can those publications be accessed using an institutional account or an account? So yes, they can be accessed using an institutional account or an individual account. NFB Newsline is on Bookshare. You can find it on the browse page if you go down to periodicals. You can also find it, you know, if you're on the Mantis or Chameleon, you can just search by periodicals. And so it's right there. Do parents still have to be a part of the individual application? Some of my students don't have home Wi-Fi or computer, or parents not be able to take time to go to the library. Sally, you can go ahead and email me and I can help walk you through it with your students. And then if you have an NLS account, can you use Bookshare? And the answer is yes. And we actually do cross-verification with NLS. And so they'll help verify that the member qualifies. So I'm going to go ahead back to my PowerPoint. And I'm just going to give you guys some more information. Excuse me. Again, this is the book request. And if it's not, if you put no, that it's not required for school, it's going to be added to our wish list and eventually we'll get to it. But if you want it fast, you want to say that it's required for school. Okay, and if you want to try it out, you can always do it with this book. So these are some of the webinars. If you want to find all of our webinars, you can go to www.bookshare.org/CMS/help center/learning center/webinars and find them. Or you can just, you know, go into our help center. You'll find the whole list of all of them right there. So these are 2 that are coming up. And then here are a list of our Bookshare office hours. And so we'll be holding them on Fridays. These are at 11, so we rotate between 11 and 12 Pacific time. And then finally, if you have any questions, comments, concerns that weren't addressed here, that you want be answered before next Friday, you can feel free to email me and I will try and answer your question.
Emily, here is a question that came in. Are there age requirements for getting a membership? Like, how young might you be able to get a membership for a child?
There's no age requirement. I will say that our early reader books, you want to be very cautious with some of them. The ones that we get directly from the publishers might not have alt text or might have some funky formatting. So you really want to take a look at some of their what you're giving out to younger readers, but there is no age requirement.
And we are actually caught up with all the questions, I believe, in the chat box to the moment.
Fantastic.
Hey, Amy. Can we ask the poll question about accessing electronic materials and challenges? Can we throw that up for everybody?
I see that Leanne is on it.
Yep.
Right.
Okay, so we've launched a question. What is your biggest challenge when trying to create your own bookworms? Is it access to accessible materials, lack of student interest in reading, the student is struggling to learn to read, or other? You tell us in the chat. What is your biggest challenge when trying to create your own bookworms? We'll let those answers come in. We all have our own challenges. What is the challenge that you have creating your own bookworms? Access to accessible material, lack of student interest in reading, the student is struggling to learn to read, or other? Tell us in the chat. And I see a couple other. Tell us, what is it that is your biggest challenge? So one of the others is availability of in-home support, follow through, as many parents are very busy. Okay, I'm going to end the poll and we'll see and share from each other. We had kind of a tie, 32% all around for all three of those: access to accessible materials, lack of student interest in reading, and the student is struggling to learn to read. There were a couple others in the chat, such as needing books in Spanish or Spanish Braille, as well as the challenge of social media and some of that pull of their attention. Though we do have to talk about it is reading, even if they're reading social media, those are words. So there's a plus, even if it is social media, at least you're getting them reading. Okay, we did have one other question, not about Bookshare. So before we go on to those, did you have anything else, Emily?
I'm good. I saw there was one more question that just asked me to pull up the slide with the webinars, but I'll drop it in the link in the chat so you can see the whole list of webinars and office hours.
Okay, and do you have to have an NLS account to use Bookshare?
You do not.
Okay. One of the questions that we did have coming in about the Mantis and the Chameleon was assuming that both can use a BRF file, and then what operating systems do these devices support? Specifically, their question is on the Mantis and the Mac systems.
Yeah, so they support, they both do support BRFs, and as far as the operating system, they both support Windows, Mac, iOS at this current time.
Okay, one person is asking, does least complicated mean less features? Their student likes to use Read to Go because there was only one search box regardless of title or author. And I'm not sure who the question was for.
Yeah.
I mean, just my opinion of being a blind user, I've used Read to Go, I've used Voice Stream Reader. I don't think there's a wrong answer. If it meets the student's needs, then I like I've used both and like both for different reasons. So I think it just is going to depend on what the student's comfortable with. But as far as they both have a lot of features, the only thing that Voice Stream Reader gives me that Read to Go doesn't is the ability to choose different voices along with my Braille.
Okay, and then they were asking also about the search for Bookshare. Emily, is there a way to have a less complicated search?
Then just using the header box is the best way to go, just searching by title, author, or ISBN.
Okay. Can you provide a demonstration of finding the Bookshare search box on the Chameleon that you have, Paul? Joe,
yes.
Sorry, wrong person.
You're fine. Yeah, let me switch chairs. Okay, sorry. All right. A little complicated setup here. Okay, work at home. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm at the main menu. So I would hit. I'm assuming you mean the search box to type in a book in Bookshare to find it. I'm assuming that's what the question is.
I think you're
about.
Correct.
All right, so we're going to hit O for online services, and then we're going to hit. It comes up automatically with Bookshare, so I'm going to press enter, and then I have most recent, most popular. And then we have search for text, author, or book title come up. So I'm going to press enter. And in here is there we go, if I hit the right key. We have a parentheses box and where I can actually type in anything I want. So if I want to type in, let's just say the word, going to the store, I'll just type that in here. So let me get back to, I actually hit the wrong thing. Hold on a second. There we go. Okay, there we go. All right, so I'm going to type going to the store here. So we're going to store, and I'm going to press enter. Now what happens is I actually get titles or text from the book. of any books on Bookshare that come up. So what I'm reading here, it says something about Jack's going to the store to see if he can find some fruit and vegetables. So that is text actually from a book that you get. So I'm not, I could type in just an author's name here and pull up any book from the author as well, or I could type in the title of the book. So there's no limitation here at all.
So if I told you that you wanted to search for something about horses.
Yep.
And you wanted a low reading level, how would you do that?
So what I would do is I would go to search or find, actually. So we got the parentheses here. I would type in horse. Got that there. And then I would press enter, and it's going to find any results with horse in it. There's unfortunately not a way on this device to filter by like grade or by comprehension as far as reading level. So you would have to actually go into the book detail and look at that. That would be the only way I would know how to do it on this particular device.
So you could go and download the book, and you could use the 5-finger rule of reading. So if you teach your students that you start reading a page of text and you put your finger up for every word you do not know, and when you get to the 5-finger rule and all fingers are up, that might be a reading level a bit too high for you. At least you can use the 5-finger rule.
And I'm glad, Leanne, that you mentioned that, because one thing that I got distracted on when the dog was making a little noise earlier was the fact that you can change your grade level in this book. So let's say you have a student that's in, I was in the 3rd grade when I started reading and learning grade 2. And I struggle with certain, like the with and of, knowing which way was which. So if I'm in a book and I don't know what that short form is, I can press a command. So on the Chameleon, it's backspace with G to actually change the grade of Braille. So I can go from grade 2 contracted to uncontracted Braille just by doing a command. I don't know why that's beeping so much. Sorry. So I can actually switch grades on the fly, which really makes it amazing for a student that's learning Braille, because if they don't know all of UEB grade 2, they can switch back to uncontracted and read that as well. So it actually kind of solves that problem.
So when you're in that horse list, hopefully that's still up there, how do you go to the next one? Like, what are your choices right now, and how did you navigate to get to your next choice?
So on the front here, I may have just moved it out.
We can see it. No,
okay, good.
Perfect.
On the front, we have 4 thumb keys. So as I was mentioning earlier, the element thumb keys are on the far left and the far right. So when I hit the right thumb key, we're going to actually move to the next book about horses. So I see horse sense. And then if I hit right, I see horse racing is bad for horses, or why horse racing is bad for horses, sorry. And then if I hit the next thumb key again, we go to the next one. I can also reverse. So if I hit left twice, I'm now back on horse sense, and I could press enter and go into that and actually see what horse sense is about, or download the book. And I'm actually now, I did the command to go to uncontracted. So now I'm actually reading, I started this list reading in contracted Braille. Now I'm actually reading in uncontracted Braille. That's how like seamless it is. And just, I actually really like that feature.
And so you were showing that it is changing your lists as well as the books from contracted to uncontracted. It's wherever you are, it switches between the two for the student or
Correct.
for you.
Exactly.
So another poll question for all of you. I'm trying to find it. Amy, can you pull it up? There was the one about why students are struggling to get books.
Number 4. I think it's polling number 4.
Okay. Oh, nope, it's polling number 6. That's okay. I found it. Yep. Okay, so question. What challenges do you encounter when you're registering your student for electronic books? So like Bookshare. So is it completing the registration process that is the challenge? Securing the needed documentation? Support from your school administrators? technology issues, lack of Wi-Fi, or other. We forgot one. What challenges do you encounter when registering students for electronic books? Often more than one. Yes, yes. Sorry, I only allowed you to pick one this time. You get to pick the biggest challenge today. Oh, Sally, you're falling for the all of the above category. I guess that's other, huh? Okay, complete registration process, securing needed documentation, support from school administrators, technology issues, lack of Wi-Fi, or other. What are the challenges you encounter when registering students for electronic books? And I've got some of you that are telling me a few of them, and I get that, I definitely. And I am glad to hear we have someone who says is not having those struggles registering their students, and that is great. Love hearing that. So I've stopped the poll. For those of you that answered, 26% are saying just completing the registration is the struggle. The next is technology issues at 22%. 15% securing needed documentation, 17% lack of Wi-Fi, and then a few others. Thank you so much.
And Joe, before we wind things down, there was a question that went back towards the comparison between the Chameleon and the Mantis. So, you know, the difference in cost between the two is almost $1,000, and that can be important if this is something that's being purchased, especially outside of federal quota funds. Are there some just quick points or major differences between the two that you might be able to just share quickly?
So the biggest thing is number of cells. So you have 20 cells on the Chameleon, 40 cells on the Mantis. Also, size is a pretty big difference. I mean, the Mantis is not huge by any means, but it's a bigger device. So if you're in the first or second grade or third grade, it may just be a bigger device that you'd want to carry around all the time. As far as the software, they are the same. So they're going to behave in the same way. The biggest difference is the QWERTY and the Perkins input as far as inputting on the device.
We did have one person ask if we saw you use the Mantis. No, he has only demonstrated the Chameleon. The Mantis still has the refreshable, sorry, my own phone went off. Still has refreshable Braille display. It still has the same software and the same work. The only difference is the input, whether it's a 6-key, 8-key input or a QWERTY keyboard input. Thank you, Joe. Joe is now showing us a Mantis so that you can actually visually see. It really is a bit larger device. It's not going to fit in your back pocket. If you have really big pockets, you could actually probably fit the Chameleon in your pocket or a easier bag placement. But so size might be it. The number of cells would definitely be a distinguishing factor. And then the person's comfortability or ease of inputting information in, because if you are inputting and are very comfortable with your QWERTY keyboard process, that might actually be your smoother way of inputting information. So you might be thinking about more how a student might input information as opposed to pull out information, because the pull out information is coming on that refreshable Braille display. So it's really your input information that really has a vast difference as well. Trying to see if there's any other questions.
I don't see anything else filtering in.
Paul, did we have any last words?
We have just a brief, funny you mentioned the Chameleon and the Mantis, but the last couple of slides we have actually show those to us. So here's the Mantis. You see a picture of it there. Price of $1,995 on quota, $2,495 non-quota.
And before you move from that slide, If you want to pop back, one of the things that I did want to share, those of you who utilize quota funds, if your administrator is working with you with quota funds, there is opportunity for our school professionals to be able to utilize that quota fund price if your ex officio trustee has approved the movement of school funds. So do keep that in mind.
And the Chameleon, which you've seen more of today, of course, it's $1,295 on quota, $1,595 on non-quota. Obviously, our sales email, our customer service, and that wraps it up for that slide presentation.
Well, I would like to say thank you to all of our presenters, Cecilia and Joe and Emily. Thank you so much for a wonderful presentation, being able to get literacy and books in the hands of our students. So thank you very much.